This question is pretty tough. It's we call this a strengthening question. The question stem is asking us to strengthen the argument. So that's fine. Strengthening questions come in all varieties, easy ones, hard ones. This one's hard because I think for two reasons. One, the subject matter is probably not something you're familiar with, and two, just the because of that, it's sort of as an extension of one. The language here gets confusing. All these ideas get sort of jumbled around, tossed around, and then they're supposed to be connected, or some are not supposed to be connected. So you just got to keep clear on this, and I'll show you how I do it, I guess, and how I teach students to do it. And really, the way you do it is you just take these sort of rather abstract ideas and you try to make them concrete. So the therapist says cognitive psychotherapy. Already, you're just what? Cognitive psychotherapy? Okay, whatever. So like you're there in a room with a physicist, or rather a therapist, and then he's trying to get you to do some exercises. Close your eyes. Think about this, right? Think about that. Now tell me how that makes you feel. Whatever. Some sort of communication between you and the therapist. And it's called cognitive psychotherapy. What it focuses on changing a patient's conscious beliefs. So the things that you consciously believe, right? I like my job. I hate my job. I like my friends. I don't like my friends. Like things that you consciously are aware of. Thus, cognitive psychotherapy, this thing that they already talked about, whatever, we'll just call it X now, is likely to be more effective at helping patients overcome psychological problems. Okay, then what? See, okay, so before we read, it's a comparative statement, right? This form of therapy, the form of therapy that tells you to focus on changing your conscious beliefs. I like myself, I don't like myself. These things that you consciously believe. It's gonna be better than something else. Before we read the something else, let's identify that here, this is the conclusion. This here is the conclusion. I already see the sense. The sense indicates from our grammar lessons premise conclusion. So the support's going to go this way here. And then also this is probably premise too, I'm guessing, because either context or premise. Some information helps us to know what it is, what cognitive psychotherapy is. Right, okay, now let's read. Because the whole project here is to strengthen this argument, which means make this better. Make these premises more relevant to the conclusion. So, okay, what is cognitive psychotherapy? The stuff that makes me focus on my conscious stuff better than? Well, it's better than psychotherapy that focuses on changing unconscious beliefs. Oh, okay, so what are my unconscious? Like I'm not aware that I'm actually strangely drawn to my coffee mug, right? Because of all the happiness it gives me from caffeine, right? Like that's not something I'm aware of, but I am consciously aware of the fact that I like coffee, I suppose, right? So maybe something like that. But anyway, whatever you have to. That's what I mean by making it concrete. So forms of psychotherapy focus on consciously. Why? Why should I believe this? Right? Because we just know this. This tells us what cognitive psychotherapy is, focused on conscious beliefs, and now they say, oh, therefore it's better than stuff that makes you focus on unconscious beliefs, because conscious beliefs are under the patient's, or rather, only conscious beliefs are under the patient's direct control. Ah, okay. So unconscious beliefs are not under your control. So then the question is, then what does that have to do with it? See, you're already probably assuming this question is hard for you. You're probably already assuming, well, then that makes sense, obviously, because we like the things that are under our control are easier to change or in some way affect, right? But that's just they made you make that assumption. The LSAT writers made you make that assumption. They didn't write it. So as far as this argument goes, that's not true, right? You have to assume that's true. And that's exactly what answer choice B does. It's difficult for any form of psychotherapy to be effective without focusing on mental states that are directly under a patient's control. So then what do we know about the psychotherapy that focuses on changing unconscious beliefs? They're precisely the kind that are not under your direct control, because only conscious beliefs are under your control. So unconscious beliefs are not under your control. So if it's not under your control, then it becomes difficult for the psychotherapy to become effective. You see, so that makes this premise way more relevant to the conclusion, which is what makes answer choice B correct. Now the others are wrong, and what we're going to do now is we're going to really just sort of cut apart and analyze why they're wrong. Of course, during the test when the clock is ticking, that's not how you do it. With most of these instructional videos, these lessons, you're really trying to get better at it. This is what the stuff that what I'm doing now is the stuff you should be doing during review, because that's the only way you can just really get to that level where you're just like, oh, feels wrong under time conditions. Unless you actually put in the work now, you're not going to get to that level. A says psychological problems are frequently caused by unconscious beliefs that could be changed with the aid of psychotherapy. I mean, that's totally fine. We're trying to do a comparative here between therapy that focuses on conscious versus unconscious, and here they're saying, they're frequently caused by unconscious beliefs, and psychotherapy helps. Sure, we're not saying that. We're not saying it doesn't help. We're just saying this is better, right? So A doesn't do anything for us. C says cognitive psychotherapy is the only form of psychotherapy that focuses primarily on changing conscious belief. And this is probably attractive answer choice, because now it's like, oh, this is your only salvation, right? It's the only thing that focuses on changing your conscious beliefs, and we know that's good, but it doesn't show that it's better. Because you see, C is attractive for you if you've already presumed what B is saying, that things under your control are easier to change or something. Because the fact that cognitive psychotherapy is the only form that focuses on changing your conscious beliefs, whereas the others don't, right? The others don't focus on changing conscious beliefs. All that gets us is that cognitive psychotherapy is the only form that focuses on beliefs that are directly under your control. We still need this thing to be good. What do I know about things that are maybe things that are not under your control are better for psychotherapists to work on? Maybe, right? That could be true. But see, if you're going with C, that means you've already presumed B. So anyway, that's what makes C not right. I mean, by itself, it does nothing. D says no form of psychotherapy that focuses on changing the patient's unconscious beliefs and desires can be effective. So now they're saying for psychotherapy that focuses on changing your unconscious beliefs, in order to be effective, it also has to help change beliefs that are under the patient's direct control. So that's fine. That's adding an additional requirement for you for a type of therapy that's focused on changing your unconscious belief. They're just saying if you want this to work, you also have to focus on stuff that changes beliefs that are under your control. But that doesn't say that this other stuff is better. That doesn't help us show that this a cognitive psychotherapy which focuses exclusively on things that are under your control is better. But see, again, you're sort of, I mean, I get the feeling that D is also sort of assuming B. E says all of the patient's unconscious beliefs are under the patient's conscious control, but other psychological states cannot be controlled effectively without the aid of psychotherapy. Well, okay. So I guess what? Psychological states other than conscious beliefs, those states will be controlled effectively with the aid of psychotherapy. Which kind? It just doesn't. We're trying to prove that one is supposed to be better.